You follow the rules, work hard, and avoid obvious mistakes. You stay disciplined, responsible, and patient, expecting progress to follow. Yet life feels heavier, slower, and more expensive than promised. This tension is confusing because nothing seems obviously wrong here. The problem is not you, but the system quietly shifts. Once you see that, the confusion finally starts making sense. Doing everything right. You follow advice that responsible adults repeated for decades. Work hard, stay consistent, and avoid decisions that look risky. Show up daily, be reliable, and trust effort compounds eventually. You believe patience will be rewarded through stability and gradual growth. Saving money felt like progress, even when sacrifice felt uncomfortable. Climbing slowly seemed safer than chasing shortcuts or unpredictable opportunities. These habits look mature, practical, and socially approved by everyone. Teachers, parents, managers, and experts all reinforce the same script. Nothing about this approach felt irresponsible or obviously flawed. In fact, this behavior once aligned perfectly with how systems rewarded people. For a long time, doing everything right actually worked. That history is why abandoning these habits feels deeply uncomfortable. Letting go feels reckless, even when results quietly stop appearing. And this is where confusion begins for many people here. The hidden assumption. Most advice assumes the system remains stable over long periods. It promises effort today leads to security tomorrow, reliably always. The rules feel permanent, predictable, and safe to follow blindly. This assumption shapes how people plan careers and live long-term. It suggests consistency matters more than timing or positioning strategically. Hard work is treated as universally valuable across eras everywhere. Few question whether the environment supporting those rules still exists. Systems quietly change while advice continues repeating outdated assumptions endlessly. When outcomes shift, guidance rarely updates at the same speed. People follow maps drawn for landscapes that already disappeared completely. The mismatch stay invisible because effort still feels virtuous culturally. Questioning the system feels unnecessary when habits appear responsible socially. Stability becomes an expectation, not a variable worth examining critically. That hidden assumption quietly shapes disappointment when reality differs unexpectedly. When the system changes, costs rise faster than wages without dramatic public announcements. Stability slowly gives way to flexibility disguised as opportunity. Jobs demand more energy while offering less long-term security. Time becomes cheaper as attention grows increasingly valuable everywhere. Productivity increases, yet personal purchasing power quietly erodes monthly. Benefits once provided by employers are shifted onto individuals. Risk does not disappear, but becomes harder to recognize. The rules still exist, but now reward different behavior. What worked before now produces slower, weaker outcomes. Effort alone stops guaranteeing progress without strategic alignment. People feel confused because they follow instruction perfectly. The system did not break. It simply evolved silently. Those chains compound gradually, making them difficult to notice. By the time patterns appear, frustration already feels personal. This shift explains why discipline no longer feels enough. Change happens structurally, while daily routines appear unchanged. Why it feels personal? When results worsen, people instinctively search for personal mistakes inside. The mind prefers self-blame because systems feel abstract and distant. Personal failure feels easier to explain than structural change happening. Guilt keeps people trying harder instead of questioning conditions around them. This emotional response conveniently protects system from scrutiny and examination. Feeling behind motivates compliance, not understanding or resistance to change. Responsibility narratives frame suffering as individual shortcomings rather than outcomes. As pressure builds, people internalize stress instead of questioning rules. Silence feels safer than admitting the game itself shifts recently. Many assume others are succeeding using the same instructions still. Comparison deepens shame while hiding widespread structural strain across society. This is why confusion quietly turns into self-doubt inside. The system remains invisible while people blame themselves repeatedly, daily. That misunderstanding keeps the real problem comfortably untouched for years. The realization. Understanding the system does not instantly fix everything for anyone, but it changes how you interpret daily struggles and outcomes. You stop assuming effort alone should automatically guarantee progress forever. Instead, you notice friction created by misaligned structures around you. That shift removes guilt without demanding reckless optimism or denial. Clarity replaces self-blame with calmer, strategic thinking about choices. You realize exhaustion came from fighting invisible headwinds daily alone. Awareness helps you conserve energy previously wasted on same cycles. It becomes easier to question rules without panic or fear. Seeing systems clearly restores a quiet sense of control again. Control does not mean dominance, but informed navigation through complexity. You start choosing responses instead of reacting automatically under pressure. Progress feels possible once confusion loses its emotional grip completely. This realization marks a quiet but meaningful turning point forward. You did not fail. You followed rules built for yesterday. Recognizing that difference is not weakness, but awareness growing quietly. Awareness lets you stop blaming yourself for structural pressure daily. If this perspective helps, share when you notice the shift. Subscribe to learn how systems shape outcomes before feelings harden. Understanding system early is a quiet advantage worth keeping always.